further, and we've heard this a number of times today, that those of us who believe that there is something special and unique about husbands and wives are equivalent of bigots.
And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out where this money is coming from, why it's not fully disclosed, and if there's nothing to hide, then let's have it and end the witch hunt, as you say, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Religious bigotry, pure and simple. Those of us that believe that there's something special and unique about marriage as the union of a man and a woman do so because it's one of those rare, almost nearly universal human goods. People of many different faith backgrounds, traditions, people separated by wide swaths of time and space, agree that it takes at least one man and one woman to make a marriage. Why do they do so? They do so primarily because marriage is that institution by which society continues itself. It is that institution by which stable families are formed. And children, in general, do best with both a mother and a father. So the marriage idea, which is on one side of the debate, is that there's something unique and special about mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, that the state has an interest in protecting and upholding. On the other side, we've heard a number of arguments. But the arguments come down to this, that there isn't anything unique or morally relevant or important about unions of husbands and wives, mothers and fathers, man and a woman. That two men or two women are the same as both a husband and wife, man and a woman. And then it goes one step further, and we've heard this a number of times today, that those of us who believe that there is something special and unique about husbands and wives are equivalent of bigots, or are animated by hatred or irrational animus. We hear this time, well, let's take that argument seriously. If you really believe that it is bigotry to uphold the uniqueness and special status of marriage as the union of a man and a woman, and if you encode that into the law, why would you not punish, suppress, and marginalize beliefs which the state is now saying are the equivalent of bigotry? And in fact, this is what has occurred in jurisdictions that have moved forward with same-sex marriage. Mr. Catania refers to the 2005 incident in Massachusetts in which Catholic Charities Adoption Agency lost its ability to adopt children in the state of Massachusetts. Well, I have to disagree on the background to that. The fact is that the Catholic Church did ask for an exemption. And when it did ask for an exemption, it was told that it was pure discrimination and that no exemption would be granted. Why? Not because it took money from the state, but because this was an issue of licensing. In Maine, we just saw a school guidance counselor threatened with losing his job because he believes that marriage is the union of a man and a woman. There are consequences if you say that those of us that believe that marriage is the union of a man and a woman are the equivalent of bigots in the law. We will be treated as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown, can you tell the committee why it is that the National Organization for Marriage, when filling out its 990 forms, the federal IRS forms, why you refuse to identify the name, address, and zip code of your donors in excess of $5,000 as required?
Well, you're simply incorrect on that. As a 501c4 organization, like all organizations, we provide that to the IRS, but when the IRS provides that to the public, it's redacted. There's no difference between NOM or the Human Rights Campaign. The Human Rights Campaign would do the same thing that we would do.
So you have no objections to submitting to this committee an unredacted version of who your donors are?
Well, then you would be asking us to do something that you would not be asking those on the other side to do.
We might very well. But if the other side gives up their donors, would you give up yours as well?
Well, if every 501c4 organization were required by the IRS to give up its donors, then of course we would comply. But what you're asking is a special rule be applied to NOM in which we would give our donors and other people would not. And of course, that isn't constitutional.
Well, Mr. Brown, on October 1st, 2009, the Maine Ethics Commission voted, just within a month ago, voted to investigate the National Organization for Marriage for failing to register as a, quote, ballot question committee, a BQC, and failing to submit required financial disclosures. You sought a temporary restraining order, and last week the federal judge, district court judge in Maine, denied your request for temporary restraining order. You were also the subject, as of August 31st, 2009, two groups have filed complaints against the National Organization for Marriage with the Iowa Ethics and Campaigns Disclosure Board, alleging that NOM is violating state campaign finance laws by refusing to disclose your donors. Is this just a misunderstanding? You understand the controversy surrounding your organization. You've currently invested $1.6 million in the Yes on One initiative in Maine to overturn the state law with respect to same-sex marriage. The issue is, why not simply disclose, pursuant at least to what the Maine Ethics Commission views as a responsibility to disclose? Why not disclose? Why hide, Mr. Brown?
Well, first of all, the Maine Ethics Commission, the staff recommendation was that there would be no investigation. We expect in Iowa it also to be dismissed. Ultimately, what this comes down to is a political witch hunt in which people that believe that marriage is the union of a man and a woman are going to be held up to a different standard than everyone else. None of the allegations that NOM has done anything untoward or illegal are accurate. We've followed all the laws, but when you have a wave of licensed hatred, as you did in the wake of Proposition 8, where donors are targeted, this is not the way our system is supposed to work.
Mr. Brown, the investigation will conclude sometime in the spring of next year, and so we'll know one way or another, correct?
Yes, we will.
Is Orson Scott Card a member of your board of directors?
Yes, he is.
All right. Well, I think it's important that, are you familiar with his pronouncements with respect to same-sex marriage? And I quote, "I will act to destroy that government and bring it down." He's referring to one that would accept same-sex marriage. That he will work to destroy that government and bring it down so it can be replaced with a government that will respect and support marriage. This is reported in the Mormon Times. Is it your understanding that that means he would overthrow a government that disagrees with him on marriage equality?
Well, again, I don't know all of the pronouncements of anyone that was a board member of NOM, but the fact is that people are entitled to a wide variety of opinions on this issue, and I would defend his First Amendment right to speak just as I would yours.
All right. Ken Van Cohorn, also a member? It's true, Mr. Cohorn has entered into multiple consent orders with Connecticut banking commissioners and with Securities and Exchange Commission for, among other things, concealing, destroying, altering records, charging multiple fees, a whole series of issues related to his failure to disclose the sources of his money. I'm sensing a theme, Mr. Brown. Are you familiar with his background?
No, first of all, I'm not familiar with it, but if you want to, again, engage in a witch hunt in which you bring forward scurrilous and unfounded allegations, I will respond to them. And as far as my response is being brief, what you're doing right now is not the way our system is supposed to work. What you're doing is hurling forth unfounded allegations based upon nothing in fact, and what you want to try and do is smear and destroy those who oppose you, and this is wrong.
If I could give you, I have the documents here that show a 1996 consent order with the Connecticut's banking commissioner, a 1998 consent order from the banking commissioner, a 2005 consent order from the Connecticut's banking commissioner, and one from 2006. So I do have copies of them.
Well, I'm not aware that any sort of illegal activity that he has done or anyone else.
He consented to it.
Well,
he admitted it.
Again, I'm not aware of it. I mean, there are individuals that are involved in, the fact is that what you're doing is saying that because someone might have done something wrong on some other issue of which I'm not aware, that what you want to do is try and smear an organization. And again, it's wrong.
All right. Mr. Chairman, can I have one last question?
Yes.
Matthew Holland is a member of your board, correct?
Matthew Holland is no longer a member of our board.
All right. Well, you're aware, are you not, that there are those who believe, Mr. Brown, that the National Organization for Marriage is essentially a front to funnel dollars from the Mormon community into these anti-marriage initiatives. You're familiar with that allegation, right?
I'm familiar with the allegation, although it is patently false. But the fact is, we're very proud of the fact that we have Mormon support. And if what you're insinuating is somehow that because Mormons support us, there's anything wrong to that, or that we should create a religious litmus test, again, Brown, profoundly unconstitutional.
What I'm suggesting is, Mr. Brown, is that in the media, you typically deny that. And I'm pleased to hear that you're openly admitting it. For the record, Mr. Chairman, I will conclude, Mr. Holland, and so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out where this money is coming from, why it's not fully disclosed, and if there's nothing to hide, then let's have it and end the witch hunt, as you say, Mr. Brown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Religious bigotry, pure and simple. That's all I'll say. If you want more of this, support this bill.